Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the English Learning Podcast. I'm your host, Jason, and as always, we're here to help you improve your English skills with practical tips, real-life examples, and fun conversations. Whether you're just starting your English journey or looking to take your skills to the next level, we've got you covered.
And I'm Julia, your co-host. Today, we're diving into a topic that's so important for all English learners: how to improve your English fast. If you've ever felt stuck or wished you could make progress more quickly, don't worry, you're not alone. We've all been there.
Exactly. Learning a new language can feel overwhelming at times, but the good news is that with the right strategies, you can improve much faster than you think. And that's what we're going to share with you today. Practical tips, common mistakes to avoid, and a step-by-step approach to boost your English skills quickly.
So, whether you're preparing for a job interview, an important exam, or just want to feel more confident in conversations, stick with us. By the end of this episode, you'll have a clear plan to improve your English fast. Are you ready, Jason?
Let's do this, Julia. And to our listeners, grab a notebook if you can, because you're going to want to remember these tips. Let's jump right in. All right, let's start by talking about why improving your English quickly is so important. Julia, don't you think being able to learn English faster can make a big difference in someone's life?
Absolutely, Jason. English is such a global language. It's used in business, education, travel, and even on social media. So, when you improve your English quickly, you open up so many opportunities, like better job prospects, easier communication when traveling, or even making new friends from around the world.
That's a great point. And let's not forget that in today's fast-paced world, people often don't have years to become fluent. For example, if someone gets a new job that requires speaking English or needs to pass an English test for university, they need to learn fast.
Exactly. Plus, the faster you improve, the more confident you feel. I've seen learners who, after just a few weeks of focused practice, start speaking up in meetings, joining group discussions, or even sharing their ideas in English online.
That's so inspiring, Julia. And the best part is, improving your English doesn't just help in professional settings. It can also make daily tasks easier, like understanding instructions, watching movies without subtitles, or even enjoying podcasts like this one.
Right. It's all about removing barriers. The quicker you improve your English, the faster you can start focusing on the things you love without worrying about language holding you back.
Well said. So, now that we've talked about why improving your English quickly is important, let's move on to the challenges learners face when trying to speed up the process. And of course, how to overcome them.
Yes, because we know it's not always easy, but with the right mindset and strategies, it's definitely achievable. Let's dive in.
Now, let's talk about the common challenges learners face when they're trying to improve their English quickly. Julia, I think we can both agree that learning fast isn't as easy as it sounds, right?
Absolutely, Jason. One of the biggest challenges is trying to do too much at once. A lot of learners think they need to learn everything: grammar rules, vocabulary, pronunciation, all at the same time. That can feel overwhelming and lead to burnout.
That's so true. When you try to take on too much, it's easy to lose focus. Another common issue is the fear of making mistakes. Many learners hesitate to speak or write because they're afraid of being judged or getting it wrong.
Yes, and that fear can really slow you down. Making mistakes is actually a part of the learning process, but I understand. It's hard to put yourself out there, especially if you're not feeling confident. What other challenges do you see, Jason?
Another big one is not having enough time. A lot of learners are juggling work, school, or family responsibilities, so it can be hard to find time to practice consistently.
Exactly. And on top of that, some learners don't know where to start. They don't have a clear plan, so they end up wasting time on methods that don't work for them, like just memorizing lists of vocabulary without using them in context.
Good point. I've also noticed that some people rely too much on passive learning, like just watching videos or listening to podcasts without actively engaging. While those methods are helpful, you need to combine them with speaking and writing practice to see real progress.
That's such a good observation. Another challenge is having unrealistic expectations. Some learners expect to become fluent in just a few weeks, and when they don't see fast results, they feel discouraged and give up.
Right. Language learning takes time, even when you're trying to learn quickly. It's about making steady progress, not achieving perfection overnight. And let's not forget about the lack of a supportive environment. If you don't have anyone to practice with, or don't immerse yourself in English, it's harder to improve.
Exactly. But you don't always need a native speaker to practice with. There are creative ways to overcome that, which we'll discuss later. I think another challenge is learning outdated methods. Some people stick to old textbooks or methods that don't match their learning style or goals.
That's a great point. Learning methods have evolved so much with technology, but not everyone takes advantage of the tools and resources available today. We'll definitely talk about that in our tips section. Anything else, Julia?
Just one more thing, Jason. A lot of learners focus too much on grammar rules and forget about communication. While grammar is important, the goal is to communicate your ideas, even if it's not perfect. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. I always tell learners that making progress is about building confidence and being able to express yourself, not about getting every single sentence perfect. So, those are the most common challenges. But don't worry, we're going to share practical tips to help you overcome all of these.
Yes. Up next, we'll give you some of our best advice on how to improve your English fast. These are proven methods that work for learners of all levels. Let's dive in.
All right, it's time to get into the most exciting part of today's episode: effective tips to improve your English quickly. Julia, I know you've got some great advice for our listeners, so let's start with you. What's your first tip?
My first tip is to focus on the most important phrases and vocabulary first. If you're trying to learn quickly, don't waste time on words or expressions you'll rarely use. Start with what's practical, like greetings, basic questions, or words related to your daily life or job.
That's a fantastic point. I always say, learn what you need now, and you can expand later. My tip is to practice speaking as much as possible, even if you don't have a partner. You can talk to yourself, record your voice, or even use apps with AI conversation tools.
Yes, speaking is so important. And if you do have access to a language exchange partner or a tutor, make sure to use that time wisely. Don't just talk about random things. Focus on specific situations or topics you want to improve in.
Absolutely. Another tip is to immerse yourself in English. This doesn't mean you have to move to an English-speaking country. You can create an English environment by watching TV shows, listening to podcasts, or changing your phone's language to English.
I love that tip. Immersion works wonders. And let me add, don't just passively consume content. Be active. If you're watching a show, repeat phrases out loud. If you're listening to a podcast, try summarizing it afterward in your own words.
Great advice, Julia. My next tip is to focus on listening and mimicking native speakers. Pay attention to how they pronounce words, their intonation, and how they connect words together. Then, try to copy that as closely as possible.
Yes, shadowing is such a powerful technique. You listen to a sentence and repeat it immediately, trying to match the speaker's tone and rhythm. It helps improve both pronunciation and fluency.
Exactly. Another tip is to use spaced repetition for learning vocabulary. Apps like Anki or Quizlet can help you review words at the right time so you don't forget them. And when you learn new words, try to use them in sentences right away.
Good one, Jason. And let's not forget about writing. Writing every day, even if it's just a short paragraph or a diary entry, helps reinforce what you've learned. Plus, it's a great way to notice your progress over time.
That's true. Writing also helps you internalize grammar and sentence structures. Speaking of grammar, don't get stuck on perfection. Learn the basics, but prioritize communication over accuracy, especially if you're short on time.
Yes, fluency over perfection. And finally, my favorite tip, stay consistent. Even if you only have 15 minutes a day, make it count. Regular practice is more effective than cramming for hours once in a while.
Consistency is key. And remember, learning fast doesn't mean rushing. It's about focusing on the right strategies and practicing smarter, not harder. So, try these tips, and you'll see improvements in no time.
Exactly. Coming up, we'll talk about mistakes to avoid when trying to learn quickly. You don't want to miss this part.
Now that we've covered effective tips to improve your English quickly, let's talk about something just as important. Mistakes to avoid. Julia, what's the first mistake you think learners should be aware of?
One big mistake is focusing too much on grammar. Of course, grammar is important, but if you're spending all your time memorizing rules instead of practicing speaking and listening, your progress will be much slower.
Absolutely. Grammar has its place, but remember, the goal is communication. Another mistake I often see is learners relying only on passive learning, like watching videos or listening to podcasts, without actively using what they learn.
Exactly, Jason. Passive learning is helpful, but you need to practice actively by speaking, writing, or even having conversations in your head. Another mistake is expecting perfection. Some learners want to speak perfectly before they even try, which holds them back.
That's so true. Waiting for perfection is a trap because mistakes are part of the learning process. Speaking of traps, another mistake is trying to learn everything at once. If you spread yourself too thin, you won't make meaningful progress in any area.
Good point. It's better to focus on one or two skills at a time, like improving your listening and speaking first, and then move on to other areas. Another mistake is not practicing regularly. Some learners study for hours one day and then take a break for a week.
Yes, consistency is key. And here's another mistake: sticking to outdated methods. If you're using old textbooks or methods that don't match your learning style, you're not using your time efficiently.
Right. You need to adapt to modern tools and resources like apps, online courses, or language exchange platforms. Another mistake is not tracking your progress. If you don't measure how far you've come, it's hard to stay motivated.
That's a great one, Julia. Tracking progress helps you see the small wins that keep you going. And here's a final mistake to avoid: comparing yourself to others. Everyone learns at their own pace, so focus on your journey, not someone else's.
Exactly. Comparing yourself can be discouraging. Instead, celebrate your progress, no matter how small. Learning English quickly is about being strategic and avoiding these pitfalls. Now, Jason, should we move on to a quick recap of everything we've discussed today?
Absolutely. But first, let's hear from our listeners. If you've ever made any of these mistakes or have your own tips to share, let us know in the comments or send us a message.
We'd love to hear your thoughts. All right, let's move on to a recap of today's key points.
Now let's talk about creating a daily routine for fast improvement. Julia, wouldn't you agree that having a routine is one of the most effective ways to learn English quickly?
Definitely, Jason. A routine helps you stay consistent, and consistency is the secret to improvement. Let's break it down into simple, actionable steps. What's the first thing you recommend for a daily English routine?
The first step is to start your day with English. It could be something as simple as listening to a short podcast or watching a YouTube video while you're having breakfast. This sets the tone for the day and gets your brain thinking in English.
That's a great tip. And after that, you can dedicate 10 to 15 minutes to vocabulary. Use an app like Anki or Quizlet to review words and phrases. But don't just memorize them. Try creating sentences with those words so you can actually use them.
Exactly. Then, move on to practicing speaking. If you don't have a partner, you can do self-practice by describing your surroundings, talking about your plans for the day, or even reading aloud. The key is to get your mouth moving.
I love that. Speaking practice is so important, even if you're just talking to yourself. Later in the day, I recommend spending 20 to 30 minutes on listening practice. Choose something you enjoy, like a podcast, a TV show, or music, and really focus on the words and pronunciation.
Good advice, Julia. And let's not forget about reading. Spend at least 15 minutes reading something in English, whether it's a book, an article, or even social media posts. This helps improve your comprehension and introduces you to new vocabulary and context.
Yes, reading is essential, and here's a tip for the evening. End your day by writing. You can write a short journal entry about what you did that day, what you learned, or how you're feeling. Writing reinforces grammar and helps you express your thoughts more clearly.
That's a great way to end the day. And let's not forget about reviewing your progress. Take 5 minutes to go over what you've learned, whether it's new words, phrases, or something you practiced earlier. This helps you retain information better.
Exactly. So, to summarize, your daily routine could look like this. 1. Morning. Start with listening or watching something in English. 2. Midday. Practice vocabulary and speaking. 3rd afternoon. Do some focused listening or reading. 4th evening. Write and review your progress.
That's such a balanced routine, and it's manageable even if you have a busy schedule. The key is to be consistent and adjust the routine to fit your needs. Once it becomes a habit, you'll see results much faster.
Absolutely. Coming up, we'll answer some common questions about building routines and share additional tips to make learning more fun and effective.
Now, Julia, let's address something that every learner struggles with at some point: staying motivated and consistent. Learning English quickly isn't just about having the right techniques. It's about sticking with it even when it feels tough.
You're absolutely right, Jason. Motivation is like the fuel that keeps you going, but consistency is the engine. Without it, you can't make progress. So, let's talk about some ways to stay motivated and build consistency into your routine.
Great idea. For me, one of the best ways to stay motivated is to set clear, specific goals. Instead of saying, "I want to learn English," try something like, "I want to hold a 5-minute conversation in English by the end of the month." What about you, Julia?
That's a great tip. I'd add that it's important to celebrate small wins. Did you learn 10 new words this week? Celebrate that. Were you able to understand a short video without subtitles? Give yourself credit. These small victories keep you motivated.
Absolutely. And another way to stay consistent is to make learning fun. If you hate memorizing grammar rules, find a way to learn through something you enjoy, like watching movies, playing games, or listening to songs in English.
Yes, making it enjoyable is so important. And here's another tip. Connect your learning to your personal interests or goals. For example, if you love cooking, try watching recipe videos in English. If you're into sports, follow English-speaking commentators.
That's such a practical idea. Another key to consistency is accountability. Share your goals with a friend or join an online community. When someone else knows about your goals, you're more likely to stick to them.
Exactly. And if you don't have a language buddy, you can even set reminders for yourself. Use apps to track your progress or reward yourself when you complete a learning streak.
That's a smart strategy. And let's not forget the power of routines, which we talked about earlier. A routine makes learning a habit, and habits are what carry you through when motivation dips.
That's true, Jason. And here's a final tip. Remind yourself of your why. Why do you want to improve your English? Maybe it's for a job, travel, or to connect with people around the world. Keeping that reason in mind can help you stay motivated.
That's such an important point, Julia. So, to sum it up, set clear goals, celebrate small wins, make learning fun, stay accountable, and always remember your why. If you stick to these principles, you'll stay motivated and consistent on your journey.
Absolutely. Coming up next, we'll answer some listener questions and wrap up with a quick recap of today's key points. Don't go anywhere.
Well, Julia, we've covered so much today. Everything from common challenges to effective tips, mistakes to avoid, and even how to stay motivated and consistent. I hope our listeners feel inspired and ready to take their English learning to the next level.
I think they will, Jason. Remember, learning English quickly doesn't mean rushing through it. It's about being smart with your time, staying consistent, and enjoying the process. Progress may feel slow at times, but every step counts.
That's such an important reminder. And to all our listeners out there, don't forget, you have the ability to improve every day. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more podcasts like this. Hit the like button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an episode.
Thanks so much for joining us today. Keep practicing, stay consistent, and remember, you're doing an amazing job. Until next time, happy learning.
See you in the next episode. Take care and keep improving your English.